Hey everybody, welcome, and for some of you, welcome back to a video series that Gillian and I put together. So today we're actually going to be answering a question that we got from one of you via a YouTube comment, and it was basically how do we maintain our relationship as both coach and client,
hmm
as well as our marital relationship, and how do we balance the two without one crossing too far over into the other?
But beyond coach and client, which is how it started, and I think we're going to get to that, is that over the years it has really evolved a lot from not just coach and client, but true training partners.
Correct. Absolutely. So, why don't we get right back to the beginning? So, when I met Jillian, she was a coach, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Where did we meet?
So I invited you to my gym for a nutrition lecture.
Right,
I had asked you after that to stay for a workout,
right.
and then tried to sell you as a client.
That's right. So, when I came into the gym, I was suffering from a lot of overuse injuries, and I was pretty much what I would call I was at the end of my athletic rope. I thought that I was just going to have to say, I'm too old, I'm too broken, falling into all the stereotypes that I think a lot of retired military people do. Like my prime is over, and now it's just time for me to put myself out to pasture.
But you were not retired yet
I
at
was
the
not
time,
retired. No,
right?
I was just I was getting a little bit older. So, and I was starting to embrace my limitations as opposed to resist them a little bit. So, how about you? Where were you coming from an athletic career perspective?
So I had just, I don't want to use the word retired because I did not know at the time that I had felt retired, but I had just walked away from basically my competitive athletic career to work on things in my life and my personal life, which I have written about recently in an article that just was published.
Yep.
Um, and I was done competing, or at least done competing for the time. So I did not have any immediate goals, but I've always trained. Whether or not I have a goal, I have always trained, but I didn't have something that I was working towards. And I was just, I would say, from my own training perspective, floundering a little bit
Right.
because I lacked, even though I went and trained, I lacked a sense of purpose.
And I think that's important because for us, the conditions were ripe to develop an outstanding coach client relationship. So, Jillian brought me into the gym, and she impressed me as she does with a whole lot of people, pretty much everybody that she speaks with. She impressed me with her knowledge. She impressed me with her approach. There was candor, there was brutal honesty, but there was also empathy and support. So I made the decision I'm going to try this barbell thing, and I had never done barbell training before,
Yeah.
and that was your specialty at the time.
So you came in as an endurance athlete. So we've talked about it before, but
Right,
some people are new to listening to
right.
us. Scott was an Ironman triathlete, and he was a previous endurance athlete. And
Marathons,
yeah,
any race, or any distance of a running race, really.
and I would say that he was an exercise and fitness enthusiast,
Right,
but had never done any real strength training before.
right. And I had never really been coached either. So some people would say it's all thrust, no vector. Like a whole lot of go, but not a lot of planning behind it. I just kind of muscled
Yeah.
my way through it.
And again, you were hurt, right?
I
Or
was.
you were hurting.
I was hurting. So, and one of the first things that Jillian said to me was, "Give me 3 weeks and you'll be without pain." And I think I actually called her a liar, but
And I asked you to stop running at the time
she did.
because you were dealing with some Achilles tendonitis,
Yep,
tendinosis.
tendinosis. So the more severe, more prolonged version of tendonitis. But there were
And
some.
shoulder stuff.
I had
Yeah.
basically head, shoulders, knees and toes, and probably eyes and ears and mouth and nose. But we're not going to go through the whole song. So it was. I was pretty much done, and I needed something new. I just didn't know that I needed it. So you coached me from very, very basic beginner novice from the barbell training, and it established a trust relationship between the two of us. And over time, that developed from a coach client relationship to a training partner. And I think at this point, it's probably time that we should give credit to the other people who were involved in this
Yep.
training excitement. So,
So Scott joined a morning group at the gym,
mhm,
and the way the groups worked at the gym was there was groups of up to six, and everybody had their own platform and their own rack, and everybody would basically train together, but following your own program. And by own program, we would often do the same lifts at the same time, but you are working in your own ability parameters, sets, reps, weight. And Scott joined an early morning group. And for the first time ever, I actually got involved in the group, not just as a coach, but as a participant in the
right,
group, which was very, very unusual. For me, I had always separated that out, and I had always trained. I'm not going to say I've always trained alone. I have training partners in the past, but for many years, I had taken to training alone. I just decided nobody could hang with me. Like, this is just, I am better off on my own. And I made the decision to join Scott's group.
right.
So, in two roles, as the coach of the group and also as a participant. And it gave me a sense of belonging. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I did not have that sense of purpose in
Right.
my training.
Right.
So we had an incredible time.
We did. And also I, as an endurance athlete, I was used to training alone, whether it was on the, now I did do some group rides and some group runs, but those were the exception and not the norm. So for me, I coming from a military background, I'm always looking for that unity, that esprit de corps, and that group integrity, and we just clicked, and it was phenomenal. And there was a lot of motivation, there was a lot of support, there was a lot of accountability, and I think together the 530 crew made the individuals exponentially better than we would have been had we just been on our own program.
And it set the day off perfectly. And for me, I realized that I derived an immense sense of satisfaction from sharing the training experience with others and trying to also remember, Jillian, you're not chasing a specific goal right now. It is okay to be part of this group, and it was the best time.
Right. So that was the beginning of everything, and I think that solidified the at first the coach client relationship that we have, again, coach and client, but it also developed our ability to train together as training partners. And like, she learned me as a lifter, and I was able to start learning her as an athlete, and how could I be a good supportive training partner for her. And that has evolved
Yeah.
over time.
So for a little bit of time, it's fair to say that within the group, my priority was coaching
Right.
in the group. So within the group, I can't say that I went at 100% all the
No.
time. There was a little bit of detraining that initially occurred for me. My eyes were on the athletes in the group, and it would be my turn to do my set, and I would just kind of get it done. And the other thing that I didn't want to do, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy, is scare people.
Yeah. So she was used to training, and I've seen some of the training videos, and we actually just stumbled upon a video, a compilation video that some AI or some person put together about Jillian. She just put it out on her social media. But she would train to the point of, I I don't really know how to say it, to the point where you would almost black out.
I would say physical illness. Like there were times that my training sessions were so extreme that if I was alone in the gym, this thought would go through my head. I'm like, I hope that if something happens to me, somebody comes in and finds me.
Right.
And having retired from professional athletics at that point, I think the mature part of me recognized that I did not need to be chasing that in my training anymore. So the group also provided me a place to have a little bit more balance, to be a little bit more realistic with what, I don't need to go in and do that to myself when there is not a competition or something.
Yeah.
I needed to really evaluate why I was training like that.
And I think we all found joy.
Yep.
We found the trust in each other, and we found joy in putting in the work. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not really work. So over time, clearly, that relationship morphed from coach client to Scott and Jillian, and then we eventually got married, and then now we're husband and wife. But through the relationship development, that foundational relationship of coach, client, and training partner has never changed. And we recently hosted a party here, and we had some coworkers come over and their spouses, and of course, there's legend about or around the gym that's in our garage. It's a 3-car garage, and we don't keep any cars in it. It's all training area. So, some people wanted to see it, and we would go in there and take them. And the conversation came up like, how do you train together? So it was the second time we had that question. And I think, cutting to the chase of everything, we have been able to separate, like, what happens in the gym stays in the gym, and what happens in the home stays in the home. When we walk through that doorway, there is a switch that's flipped, and we go from husband and wife to training partners, or husband and wife and coach client. And I respect you enough to know that you are looking out for my best interest as my coach, but you are also, as a training partner and coach, able to look at something and say something's not right, or you've got a little bit more. And that trust that we developed early on has carried all the way through. Now, I can be a little bit of a difficult person, and I don't always have the filter that I need to have, and I will cry like a child at times when we're working out. Which she'll say, all right, I want you to do, however many sets of however many reps of a particular exercise, and it just blows my mind. And I remember one time we were actually in the old gym, and she told me to do something, and out of nowhere I exploded. I am not you. And I mean, the heads that whipped around, I mean, people were a little shocked at that. But when I say that what happens in the gym stays in the gym, like, she is gracious enough and empathetic enough to give me the ability to express those feelings. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about the coach-client relationship before, where I have to be able to express fear, pain, and frustration, and she has to be willing to hear it. And I don't know how you do it, but you do it, and you allow me that length of rope.
Well, I think for me, some of it is we don't bring the home into the gym, and we don't bring the gym into the home.
Right.
So if there's things, we get up at least an hour before we train.
Right.
We have a couple cups of coffee. We may discuss the workout a little bit. Scott doesn't always want to know because that makes him anxious.
It does.
Basically, he just wants to know, what is the timeline? When am I going to get back into the house in terms of getting ready for work? But if there are issues that we have, whether it's, did this bill get paid? Did we take care of this? Did we take care of that? That occurs in the home prior to going into the gym, the garage.
Right. And as Gillian said, there's a substantial amount of time that we talk. Probably we talk more than really any other pair of people that I know.
And we do. But the gym is our safe space,
right,
where that doesn't come into the gym. So whatever we're working through, work-related, anything else, happens in the house. As soon as we set foot into the gym, that is a protected space for
right,
us. Yeah. We try to keep any kind of work out of there, phones, anything like that. And then when we finish the workout, and sometimes Scott will get upset. We are going to be very, very honest here. There was...
This is a one-take video, so I have no idea what she's about to say, and you're going to hear it at the same time that I am.
So the other day, it was very, very cold in the gym, and our hands weren't working very well, and we were using a weighted belt to do weighted chins, where you had to hook the chains on, and the chains kept either hitting you, or you were getting your fingers caught in them, or what was going on?
I was getting hit by the loose end of the chain, or the bitter end of the chain for the nautical folks out there. I was getting pinched between the two plates that we were, hanging on the chain. When I dropped the belt, the weights would fall and hit my exposed ankles. I mean, when I say that I could, weep like a child, I mean literally like a child, a toddler. And it was full tantrum mode. And I threw the belt down, and I just looked at her and I said, I don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
And go ahead.
That stays in the gym for us and does not come back into the home. And one of the things we do that's most helpful after something like that is we always go for a walk, and we schedule in the day after we lift. And if there's any debrief or anything that needs to be discussed about what happened in the gym, we talk about it on that walk.
Absolutely. It is the greatest form of after-action report for all of anybody who's done any planning or execution of exercises. She used the word debrief, and we talk it out. And I had been able to put enough time between, the 25-pound plate hitting my ankle, and I was able to say this is what was going on. But she is that good that she knows, back off. It'll come out when he's ready to talk about it.
Yep. I think one of the bigger things that's more complex, other than that part of it, is how do we train together when our goals, capabilities, likes, dislikes may be different?
Right.
So how do we train together? Especially in the over time, we have kind of matched up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you were brand new to all of that stuff,
Right.
and you were able to be the client, but not necessarily a training partner.
Right. I, Go ahead.
So I think what we do is as we enter new phases, we talk about the overall goal. Like, are we working on strength development? Is it a bodybuilding phase? So we have an overarching goal for both of us together.
Right.
And within those parameters, we sometimes will set individual goals.
Right. And throughout all of this, we've talked about trust. We've talked about that relationship that we developed. But there's also this constant communication. And I made light of it before, but literally, I've never spoken to anyone as much as we talk. We get up early. We get up at 4:00, and that's just so we have time to drink a cup of coffee.
Yep.
To get some words out, like how are you feeling? Are there any aches and pains?
Yeah.
How'd you sleep last night? And then we go into the gym where Gillian can make any adjustments as the coach, and I am able to express some things continually in the gym, and then we go on that walk.
Yeah.
And we get it out.
So we match up our schedules and we make enormous amounts of compromises to do that. We match up our schedules, we go into the gym together. The theme of what we're working on is the same, but we're not always doing the exact same
No.
things.
So
So there may be something where you have an injury or something doesn't feel good to you, or I want to do a little bit more gymnastics or calisthenics skills. We generally address the meat of our program first, the big main things, and then sometimes towards the end of the workout, we do work on some different things.
I think it's important at this point, and what Gillian said something, she makes tremendous compromise. Gillian works from home.
I do.
She works as basically an independent contractor, as an online strength and conditioning coach and nutrition coach, and soon to be author. But she doesn't have to get up at 4.
I do not.
She does not have a particular schedule. Now, she'll have meetings and calls with clients and all of that jazz, but I'm the one that has the schedule. She bends her schedule to help meet my training goals. So in that give and take, like, I recognize what that means for her. Because there's not a lot of people that wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, especially when they don't have to. So, there's a tremendous show of compromise,
And I guess
halfway happy for both of us.
the real question is why? Why do we choose to do it this way? Why do we choose, I could sleep until any time, I could work out for as long as I want.
Right.
I don't need to keep it into your parameters of what's roughly an hour in the gym in the morning. Why do we choose it? And for us, what we've come to is the sum of us,
Right.
the sum of our family. Doing it for us is so much more meaningful than doing it for us as individuals.
Yeah. And that's probably trial and error, because I had decades of doing physical fitness and exercise just for me, and it was hollow.
Meaning, and I think we derive a level of satisfaction, and it's something that we have found to be very important in our relationship.
Right.
So, in full disclosure here, those of you that have been with us for a long time know that Scott and I have had
A couple of previous relationships that didn't always work out. So
we've been married
Gillian
a few
is
times.
Gillian is not my first, second, or third wife. So you can do the math.
And we prioritize this for us because it is so special and meaningful, and we consider the quality time in the gym, above the needs of the time we spend in the gym together is more meaningful for me than maybe what my pull-up goal is.
Right. And in the Marine Corps, shared hardship builds morale. And I think for us, going through the voluntary hardship of the workouts, I think it brings us closer together. I will have my moment, and she is gracious enough to let me have my moments, but we always come back to we are greater than me. And we, quite frankly, means Hank too, who's laying on the
Yeah.
floor over there, because that walk that we take, we didn't always do it, but now that we've got a dog that, he's a big dog and he needs some exercise, he forces us to get out because, he looks at you with those big dog eyes and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
we need to go outside in the cold or the rain or whatever to get it done, and we always feel better afterwards.
Agree. So we were tested, and we put this to the test because earlier last in the spring of 2024, when I committed to doing a bodybuilding competition and training like a bodybuilder, which is not what we typically do,
No.
um, we split up briefly as training partners. Um,
Define split up as training partners. Uh,
I was going to follow the program,
and you were
and
going
I
to
was going
give
to
me
give you a
a program. Yes.
program. We may have occupied the same gym space,
Right.
but we were not going to train together.
Right.
And that ended up lasting not even a week.
Not even a week.
It was devastating for us.
I missed it. I missed my partner. I missed my support network. I missed my coach making
Yeah.
tweaks and,
So this
and
time-
just the perfect cues.
Scott is the one that made the huge compromise and said, okay, I'm going to train for a bodybuilding competition with you.
I'm a giver. And it really just comes down to you make a choice. And for me, the choice was I chose us. I chose to go on the journey with her. I chose to do, and it wasn't just the bodybuilding workouts. It was the bodybuilding diet and really the lifestyle that went around with that. And I'm like, what harm is going to come from this? So I'll lose a few pounds, or I won't be able to, do the squat or the deadlift or whatever, which I really wasn't doing at that point in our training anyway. So it was something I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't understand the world. I respect it, absolutely respect the work that they do, but it just wasn't anything that I was interested in. But we are something that I am interested in. So I took a back seat and I was like, look, I know this is a training phase, whether it lasts, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, we will eventually move on to the next phase. And I had that trust in her to know that we would come back to something that was mutually enjoyable and beneficial for both of us.
I think we both feel like this shared experience is what's most important.
Absolutely.
Just somebody being there with you, and not everybody has that. And again, I try to provide that to people that don't have that as an online coach, but just again, being accountable to somebody else that's there with you to see it, somebody that when you set a PR is going to give you a big smile and a big hug, or there for you when you have a bad day.
Right.
And I mean, this is not always a bed of roses. We are not going to pretend that
No.
every day in the gym is an awesome day. I mean, the tantrums happen.
And sometimes it's just a grind. I mean, even just what would normally be a routine, relatively simple workout, sometimes it's everything you can do just to get your butt into the gym and get through it. But you have to suffer through those times in order to get to the better times.
I think we've both realized, and we talked about it yesterday when we were discussing this video, that there were times we would not have done it on our own. It would have been easier to just say, I'm not doing it today. But the thought that I would be letting Scott down or he would be letting me down, we go in there and we give it what we have. I mean, some days we end up doing, there are days that one of us is hurt. So, last week I wrenched my back.
Yep.
And you're like, it's okay if we're not going to squat and deadlift today, and you want to do some like back rehab protocol exercises. So we both make some kind of compromises at the bigger picture, and it's not always even. Sometimes we're more, working towards goals, particular goals that I have.
Right.
Sometimes we're working more towards goals that you have, but we're continually evaluating these things.
Right. And it's a little disingenuous when I say that what happens in the gym stays in the gym, because we talk about it a lot. And so we talked about, we get up at 4 and we drink coffee. And then when I come home from work, one of the first things we do is, once I get home and changed and settled, is we go back out for another walk. And we're fortunate this time of year that we can go outside. It's not 90 degrees with 95+% humidity, and Hank can go with us. But we go take Hank for another walk, and we talk like, how was your day? how are the clients doing? And she'll ask me, how are your coworkers doing? You know, what's big, what's on your mind? What from work do you need to get out so that we can have the rest of our night? And then when we get back from that walk, you know, we continue to talk throughout the rest of the evening. So we bookend our days. We start out talking together and we end the day talking together. And I think that level of communication is what helps us balance everything else that we have going on.
That, I think we look long term at our goals and do systems checks. So, in
Yep.
terms of going to the gym, we're not just like, let's pummel ourselves. We will continually reevaluate our goals and have discussions like, what are the things that are important to us? And we agree on those priorities. So, the number one thing is our physical health,
Right.
right? Our mental health, our physical health, that we could be active, relatively pain free, and able to do all of the things that we love in life.
And that we will be able to do them for as long as possible.
So that's what drives our training together,
Yep.
is maintaining that is first and foremost. Does our training support us doing the things that we enjoy doing?
Right.
And then addressing the things that are important to us, which is obviously health markers and values, our body composition,
Aesthetics, yeah.
aesthetics, and then be underneath that is probably if there is an individual performance goal,
Right.
right?
And all of that comes out through all of the conversations that we have, you know, on any given time, on any given day. You know, in a previous video series, we talked about, you know, chasing numbers. And I talked about chasing, you know, a 500-pound deadlift, which I never got to. And that's fine because now, after a pretty serious injury to my back and working through the recovery, now the numbers I chase are 120 over 80 with a resting heart rate at or below 60 beats per minute. So those are the important numbers for me and for us, and we work through, you know, we'll tweak in the margins some of the other things that are important.
I think there is a constant balance for us of selflessness and selfishness that exist together
Yeah, that's kind of brilliant.
in the gym.
Yes,
It's like, when I'm going, I want to be completely focused on my lift and what I'm doing is important. And when you're going, it is about you. But I think there's an amount, the most important things in the relationship are definitely listening to each other
yep,
and observing. You've gotten to know me in the gym in a way. I mean, you are so scared to coach me. You're like, here I am. I don't know anything about this. She's asking me to participate as a coach. I'm working with an elite athlete. And he knows because you listen, you observe, you know exactly how I need to be coached.
yep. She's not the, you know, she's not the person that wants a whole lot of input. You know, she taught me when you are under a barbell or under a load or under strain or under, you know, any sort of physical distress that comes from working out very hard, you are deaf and dumb. Like you can't say anything, you can't hear anything. But I have trained myself to hear one voice, and I think she's done the same thing. And I know not to put out a clutter of words. It's one or two words, you know, sharp, succinct cues that will help. All of that has come over time. So,
What it, I think something that we've examined that we don't have the answer to is, would we be this good in the gym together as training partners if we had started out differently? So what we say is, most people, you came to me, I was the expert in this.
yes,
I'm the coach, you're the client, there is trust. What about a couple that has been together for decades and just takes an interest, or one or both of them, in training? Like, that is an entirely, I have always theorized that huge part of why it works so well for us was that we had that relationship prior to husband and wife. I do believe that people that are husband and wife first, or have a certain relationship first, and then go down that path where there is no expert, like
right.
you will always in the gym defer to me, right? We
Of
don't,
course.
right? So now imagine that was.
Come on.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think what it really comes down to is we've walked our path, and our path is not the path that necessarily that you either want to or would be able to walk. But I think the foundational aspects of our path come back to communication. And I think everyone in a relationship can focus on that. Like, what is important to you? This is what's important to me. How do we combine those two things? And, if it's, hey, we'll go to the gym together, We'll high five at the door. I'll see you in half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and then we'll talk about how it went. Maybe that's the way that it will work for you. Or maybe one of you is an endurance athlete and one of you is a strength athlete. It's the same thing. Like, work on your plans together, talk out your goals together, and don't click off when the other person's talking. Like, invest in their process. And I think just having that mutually supportive relationship,
Just gonna say that.
yeah, that mutually supportive relationship is going to benefit you regardless of what one or both of you are doing from a physical training perspective.
I think if I had to distill it all down, for us, the success comes from communication, communicating at the time, not saving up 10 different things.
Oh man.
So if something is
Have
going
I had to learn that lesson? Oh man.
is effective communication.
Right.
And if we're misunderstanding, we take the time to get down to what it is that we're trying to communicate.
Right.
So it's communication, and it's being supportive of each other.
Yes.
It is listening and being supportive. Again, for everybody, their goals are not going to match up. Not
No.
everybody is going to be able to or be interested in
Right.
doing what we do. A lot of people think we're weirdos.
We kind of are.
But how we have succeeded, I believe, even in our relationship, is keeping in mind communication,
Right.
effective communication that happens immediately,
Right.
and being supportive of each
Yeah.
other.
My mom taught me, well, she's taught me over and over and over again, because I've got a thick skull, but you don't ever go to bed angry.
Yeah.
And for us, we don't even wait to it's forget going to bed angry. Like, we don't even let the anger sit. Now, every now and then, like, we talked about, we had to wait until the walk to figure out why I was such a child in the gym.
Do I ever do that?
No,
No.
no. Even if she did, she doesn't. But it's the trust that comes from that communication. And I think it's just one of those things, like, and every now and then, like, I will say something, and I will have to say, this is frustration speaking. And I think that helps her give me a little bit more grace, than just me spewing off at the mouth and then having to backtrack 3 or 4 hours later and be like, I'm sorry, I said something. So, again, it's the communication that we have, and that has inspired trust, and that trust has enabled us to give the proper perspective to maybe some of the words that are coming out, and knowing that it's not necessarily a true feeling, it's a momentary feeling of frustration or anger or bitterness or whatever it is, and then there is that after action, that we have when we go for a walk, and we walk it out, we talk it out. So, bottom line is, talk to each other.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more thing, and then we'll probably wrap this one up.
Yeah. Well, wow. Yeah.
I think part of, in terms of our relationship, to me, there is an enormous amount of vulnerability when you share hard physical work together.
Yep.
And I think there is a closeness that comes from that. And anybody that's trained, obviously for you, career in the Marine Corps, anybody that's trained, people on sports teams and other stuff, when you share that, when you see people in a vulnerable way, there is a way that it humanizes them in a way. And I'm going to say, for us, not that we don't have a million other things that bring us close together, but the vulnerability in the gym with everything stripped away brings us even closer.
Absolutely. Adversity reveals character, and failure really reveals character, and it reveals kind of who you are. And it's not the failure, it's how do you react to the failure. And in a supportive relationship, failure is just a point to grow on. It's not something that you dwell upon.
As strange as this is, we get to see something in each other, as silly as this is, that is private to us in the gym. If I fail on something, or he sees some emotions that I never demonstrate, in real life when my professional face is on and I'm, out with clients or something, that Scott gets to see sides of me through our training that other people don't get to see.
Right. I get to, and I think that's an honor, quite frankly, is to have that much trust in us that she will show me that side. So unfortunately, she has to see too many sides of me. But again, there's that trust. So, all right, this is by far the longest one we've put together, but I feel like we got our words out.
I think we did.
So, all right. Well, if you got anything out of this video, please let us know. If you have any questions as a result of the things that we talked about, please let us know. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you think you know somebody who might benefit from it, please feel free to share the video.
I got emotional.
Oh, I'll get emotional later. We'll talk about this on our walk. But we hope you all have a great day, and we will see you for the next one.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.